Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the origins of a spiritual movement called Happy Science, and it all starts with a divine revelation followed by 6 years of total silence. So, what on earth could make someone wait that long to share a message from the heavens?
I mean, think about that for a second. You receive what you believe is a genuine message from a higher plane of existence. What's your next move? Well, the founder of this movement decided to wait for 6 whole years. So the big question is, why? Why the long pause?
So, let's unpack this. The story kicks off with a sudden spiritual awakening, which you'd think would lead to some big announcement. But instead, it's followed by this long, quiet period of, well, careful thinking.
And what I find really fascinating here is the context. This wasn't some monk meditating on a remote mountaintop. Nope. Back in March 1981, the founder was just an employee at a big trading company, a world of spreadsheets and deadlines. And it was right there, in that corporate setting, that these spiritual messages reportedly started. But instead of just quitting his job and starting a movement, he began a 6-year, totally private journey to verify what was happening.
And this right here gets to the absolute heart of that 6 year silence. It wasn't about a lack of confidence in what he experienced. It was actually the opposite. It was this profound, almost crushing sense of responsibility. He knew that if he got it wrong, the spiritual guidance he offered could have seriously damaging, long-lasting effects.
This immense sense of responsibility was really fueled by a deep-seated fear of what he saw as a very real spiritual danger, the harm that could be caused by well-meaning but ultimately misguided religious leaders.
See, the main worry was this. If you spread a false teaching, it doesn't just mess with people in the here and now. According to the source material, those negative effects just ripple through time. They can affect the souls of followers for generations to come and create unbelievable suffering for the original teacher in the afterlife.
This quote really paints a picture of the high stakes, doesn't it? The speaker is claiming he knows the spiritual fate of other modern religious founders who, in his view, didn't get it right. He describes their suffering as just unimaginable, and it gets worse every single time their followers, acting out of loyalty, continue to share those flawed teachings back on Earth. It's a pretty chilling thought. So if the big danger out there is deception, what's your shield? The answer that's presented here isn't blind faith. It's actually something completely different. Knowledge.
And this comparison here is really key. On one side, you've got blind faith, which is shown to be pretty vulnerable. A deceptive spirit could use some complex theory from a single religion and totally trick you. But, on the other hand, if you have a broad knowledge of multiple belief systems, you've got a defense. You can actually spot the contradictions and see right through the lies.
So here's the bottom line. A deceptive spirit might be an expert in, let's say, one specific school of Buddhist thought, but that spirit can be totally unmasked by someone who also understands Christianity, Shinto, and philosophy. It's this wider wisdom that lets a person see what the lecturer calls the golden thread of truth that connects all genuine teachings. So in this system, that intellectual rigor is your ultimate spiritual shield. Knowledge is power. Okay, so how did this knowledge-first idea shape the way the organization actually grew? Well, it definitely wasn't about getting as many followers as possible as fast as possible. No, the approach was pretty much the exact opposite.
The whole guiding principle is framed using some Buddhist terms. The idea is that Mahayana, which means saving others, has to come after Hinayana, which in this context means achieving your own salvation and understanding first. It's simple, right? You can't lead other people out of a dark forest if you haven't found the path for yourself.
And that principle breaks down into a really clear 3-step process for members. It's not about just running out and spreading the word. The real emphasis is on deep, personal inquiry and learning. Evangelism, that comes last, only after you've built a really solid foundation for yourself. And this number, wow, this really puts everything into perspective. The initial goal wasn't to get 1 million followers. It was to develop a core group of 1,000 arhats, basically enlightened individuals who had truly mastered the principles. The belief was that these 1,000 people could then go on to change society from the inside out. All right, so after all of that caution, all of that foundational work, what is the core teaching for finding happiness? Well, it's laid out in a framework called the Modern Fourfold Path. But before you can even start on the path, you have to accept the starting point. And that's this core belief about human nature,
that every single one of us is essentially the same. We're all children of one God. The metaphor they use is that we're all shining diamonds that just get covered in dirt and grime as we go through life. And the whole point of life is to polish that diamond. And this is the path to polishing that inner diamond. It's made up of 4 key practices: love, which is all about giving; knowledge, which is about finding truth; reflection, which is that self-polishing work; and development, which is about progress. Let's just quickly break down what each of these means. First up, you have love. And we're not talking about romantic love here. This is what the lecture calls giving love. It's this deep compassion that comes from that core understanding that since we're all from the same divine source, helping other people is, in a way, just helping a part of yourself. Second is knowledge, and we've already seen how important this is as a defense, right? But here, it's also a pillar of your own personal happiness. It's the wisdom that lets you navigate the world freely and, correctly. Third, we have reflection. This is the really active part, the actual work of self-polishing. It's the daily practice of looking inward, finding your own mental grime and rust, and then cleaning it off so your true, divine nature can finally shine through. And then, after all that internal work of reflection, comes development. This is the result that faces outwards. Once your own diamond is polished and shining bright, the goal is to expand, to help yourself grow, to help others grow, and ultimately to help build an ideal society, a utopia, right here on Earth. So you see, this fourfold path isn't just some abstract set of nice ideas. It's meant to be a practical, hands-on discipline. It's a set of actions and mindsets designed to create a kind of happiness that isn't just fleeting, but one that lasts through this life and into the next. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This whole framework, from the 6-year silence to the intense focus on learning and reflection, suggests that happiness isn't something you just stumble upon. It's something you have to build through conscious, disciplined effort. Which really makes you wonder, is happiness just a fleeting emotion we find, or is it the result of a lifelong practice?